Alafia, Loroye Hotep. Welcome to the Mind of Ro page. I am Iya Obajiguna, Reinha das Caveras, also known as the Queen of Schools. Figured today is such a beautiful day. I'm chilling on my porch with my little key and my Eshun Pampajita. So I figured I'll give you guys a nice relaxing view while I talk about love today. So today my video is going to be what Spirit taught me about love. My last video I made was on what Spirit taught me about sex. So if you like that kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Ro. I also have a TikTok, Instagram, and X at Mind of Ro. I also have a Facebook business page at The Mind of Ro, and I also do readings as well. So if you would like to get a reading done, go ahead and shoot me a message and let me know and set an appointment up with me. I'll leave my WhatsApp info here as well, and my email is mindofro@gmail.com. The best place to contact me for messages that actually respond quickly will be Instagram or my Facebook page. So what does Spirit teach me about love? So I'm going to tell you some things that was not going to make sense to a good majority of you. It's not going to be cliche. It's not going to be about the universe made out of love. It's not what we're talking about today. It's going to be some stuff a little more outside the box and a little more different than the usual things you hear about people talk about spiritually about love. So my first thing I realized, because people always ask me, do you believe in soulmates? I'm going to explain to you why I do believe in soulmates, and I'm not saying that because I was told to believe in soulmates, but so I practice Ifa and I practice Kimbanda, so some of these stories are going to be very religious based off my personal practices I do. And in Ifa, our religion is based on divination. We speak to Orisha, we speak to Orunmila, we speak to Ifa, and Ifa basically tells us what the future holds and what is meant to be, and certain things that we should do and what we shouldn't do. We need to also understand that the future is never set in stone, that it also depends on your choices you make. But there are definitely some things that you should be doing, like meant to do, because we do believe in higher purposes in Ifa. So I'm going to explain to you why I believe in soulmates. Back in 2020, I got initiated into Obatala, where I became a priestess of Obatala. And during my initiation, I got an Ifa reading done that stated at the time that I am meant to be married to somebody. And when we talk about marriage is a little different in Ifa. We have a whole ritual that is done where we marry our Ifas together, and it's not like the typical marriages. I mean, obviously we can. Obviously, I'm not saying that people in Ifa don't have normal marriages like you see, but Ifa marriage is a little different. It's like a whole ritual that is done. And for that to be done, you have to ask approval of Ifa, because basically Ifa knows if that's going to be a beneficial person for you. Basically what that means is that person in alignment with your higher purpose, which means basically within time, is your feet going to be in alignment together, because both of your purposes are the same. So that's why a lot of times Ifa will not only say no to somebody because of that purpose, but also because some people you're just not a good match with, and sometimes we don't realize that in the beginning. So when I got initiated into Obatala a long time ago, I was told that I was going to have a husband, and my husband was not the person that I was with at the time. And according to a lot of people who practice, they would say, well, it depends on your free will, you could do whatever you want, right? So some people will try to make Ebo to try to change the future or turn into what they want. But one thing that I've learned from practicing is when you practice the occult, when you practice things like this, if you try to do things against your higher purpose, it just ends up chaotic, basically, because it's not meant to be, and there is a such thing as purpose. And I made a video a long time ago about chaos and how chaos brings order, and chaos is brought to you when you're not doing what you're supposed to do, and it's basically the universe telling you, hey, don't do that, do something else. In these practices, sometimes it goes a little more deeper, where it can be somebody literally trying to curse you and throw energy at you and to kind of throw you off. That's why we base our practices off of divination, to find out, am I going in the wrong direction? Is spirit trying to tell me I'm going in the wrong direction? Or is somebody else tampering with my energy? Because that is a such thing. So I found out about my husband, who I just got married to this last summer. I heard about him in an Ifa reading back in 2020. So my lesson from Spirit, or from Ifa, is there is a such thing as a person that you are meant to be with. And there is a such thing as soulmates. I don't know if you want to use that word soulmate, but I mean, if that's not a soulmate, then I don't know what else is. So that is something that I've learned from practicing Ifa. And so if you guys ever wonder if there's somebody out there who's specifically meant for you, I cannot say that everybody has somebody specific for them, but I definitely 1000% believe that sometimes there is somebody out there for you that is meant to be with you and you them. And that I know that there are just lessons that you need to go through prior to being with them. And that being said, that's going to make me go towards it's going to push me towards my second point, which is because I practice Kimbanda. We work with spirits that are Pampajeras and Eshus. And I specifically have my King Eshu is Tata Kavera. And my King Eshu has taught me a lesson, very hard, annoying, but worthy lesson about love. It was not too long ago. He taught me that sometimes, and I know some people, I tried to explain this to a couple people I've done readings on, that sometimes spirit will tell you to stay with somebody just temporarily, even if it irritates you, because you need to learn from them to help yourself or your spirit or your soul to elevate. Because there's a person I was with that typically, maybe I could be like physically attracted to him, but there are certain habits that he had that I typically would not deal with, that usually once I see those habits, I would kind of flee, like, nah, I ain't dealing with that. So this lesson has pushed me to study attachment theory. So I made a video on it, made a few posts on it, and I always advise people to read up attachment theory. If you have issues in your relationships and your love life, and you're like wondering why they never live long, or why there's always issues and what the issue is, it is really good to study attachment theory for you to understand your attachment styles and the attachment styles within other people that you tend to be attracted to, and why you're always stuck in cycles, because that's definitely a leading cause of that. And it's typically due to how you were taught love and attachment, emotional attachment as a child, and it grows with you into adulthood. So that experience has driven me to study that, because my Eshu told me to be with somebody that I kind of didn't want to be with at the time, because I kind of just want to be single. And Ifa said, you need to stop focusing on vanity, because at the time I was like, oh, I'm just gonna focus myself and buy a new wardrobe and get into photography and just do me and blah blah. And then Ifa said in a reading, do not be too caught up in vanity, you should focus on having a family. And at the time I was like, I just really want to be alone. And I'm sure like there's plenty of you watching this where you're like, I just really want to be alone. So there's some kind of weird promises that we tend to make for ourselves that sometimes we think is productive and it's not. So Eshu and Ifa approved, because typically me, I'm not going to be with somebody unless it's approved through divination. And my suggestion to all of you watching this, that if you are involved in divination, if you're interested in getting a reading, it is going to be really beneficial before even trying to start a relationship or getting involved with anybody, to always divine first to find out this person is going to be beneficial for you. Because wasting your time with somebody who's going to hurt you, cheat on you, blah blah blah, it sucks, you know what I mean? So I've learned to always divine first before I end up moving forward with anybody, because I am sick and tired of going through cycles of seeing somebody and not working out and falling apart, chaotically, you know. So I always tell my almos, like, if you're going to be with somebody and you're planning on being in a relationship or being sexually involved in this person and having them in your personal life, in your personal space, that you definitely should divine first and ask, is this person going to be beneficial for me? So I did that. I divined and I asked at the time, and Ifa, and as you said, he was. But he did have some habits that used to irk the crap out of me. But as you said, do not leave him. And my Ifa said, don't leave him. Don't leave, let him leave you. And I didn't get it. Like, I was so irritated. I felt like I was always being in a place where I'm being pushed and pulled, or always getting put in a between area, like a person who can't make his mind up. And I was like really irritated. I'm like, why is Ifa, or why is this you telling me to do this? It doesn't make any sense to me. This is what this lesson taught me. After viewing this person for a while and really paying attention to the things that irritated me so much, I realized those things that irritated me about him were things that I did to my exes. For example, pushing and pulling, being really close, and then all of a sudden emotionally pulling away, and then being close to them again, and then emotionally pulling away. Acting emotionally distant, and then acting very emotionally attached or very available, and then the next second being emotionally distant, you know. And you don't really realize how irritating you are until you end up with somebody who is exactly like you are. And not only did it teach me that, it also taught me the patience to put effort, to see what I need to do to understand the other person, to make it work, and do my part. So that when the person gives up or they decide not to do their part, at least I know that when we split up, I know I did my part. So if you are not doing your part in the relationship, I don't care how messed up your partner is, if you are not doing your part in the relationship to change your part, whatever it is that you're doing, because something everybody needs to realize is never always the other person. I don't care how toxic the person is that you're with and how innocent you think you are. You are always playing some kind of part in that relationship. And sometimes it's really hard for us to understand that. So if you do not do your part to fix whatever issue is that person is telling you you need to fix, if you don't do it and you're just so tired of that person, you leave in this bounce, you're just going to do the same exact thing with the next person and do it over and over and over again. And then you might even regret leaving that person, because you like subconsciously you know you owe that person something, and that what you owe is you sacrificing your ego. So that's what I learned with Ifa and Eshu, is when they told me to stay with somebody that irked me, it was that lesson of learning to let go of your ego and your arrogance and fixing and doing your part, doing the things that you need to do to help heal the relationship, and then letting go of what you know you have no control over. But all this blaming the other person all the time, it's not going to work. You have to do your part and hear what that person is saying that you need to do, that they want you to do in the relationship, no matter who they are. If you are not willing to do that, then you're going to end up holding on to that within your heart. You end up holding on to those regrets of wishing that you could have did your part. You should have made those changes. And then you're going to take that guilt and shame out on the next person, in the next relationship, and so on. And it's just toxicity after toxicity, cycle after cycle. And then you're like, why do I keep going through the same thing? That is the number one reason why. I don't care who it is or how toxic they are. Do your part and make the sacrifice that you need to make, that your partner says they have an issue with you doing. And do that. And then keep pushing them and keep telling them they need to change. If they call you a nag for it, oh well. Because one thing I've learned is a lot of times toxic people will try to shut you up and take your voice away. Where like there's been plenty of times where I feel like I have been in a relationship where I feel like I'm the only one doing the part and they're not doing anything. So always constantly doing my part and constantly holding that other part, that partner of mine, to do their part and not letting it go, has taught me boundaries. It's taught me how to let go of my arrogance and pride in relationships. And it has taught me to put the effort in that I know that I deserve. So if I know I put that effort in, I know deep down inside that I deserve to be with a partner who's willing to put that effort in with me as well. So before the person I'm with now, the last 2 people I was with, I put effort into changing the part that they didn't like, and then completely held them accountable to do their part, and they didn't do what I asked. So, but I was told to stay and not leave. I was told by Ifa, I need Eshu, don't break up with them. Do your part, hold them accountable, do not stop holding them accountable, and then let them leave you if they cannot handle you holding them accountable. That's what I learned, and it's taught me willpower. It taught me strength. It taught me stamina. It taught me to dig my heels in the ground and fight for a relationship. If they are not willing to fight for the relationship and you are, at least you know that you did your part. And if they let you go, then let them go. Don't hold on. Something I realized too from that lesson from my issue is do not hold on to anybody that do not want to hold on to you. Boom. If they want to leave, let them go. At least you know you did your part. So when you enter into your next relationship, your heart is filled. Your heart is whole because you know you did your part. You know you made your sacrifices, even if you didn't like it, but you did it out of the love for your partner. So that when it does come time for you to move on to your next person, you know you can stand tall and stand tight in a relationship. You know you can. And you will feel more deserving of this person who will give you that same amount of love. Because if you do not take the time to sacrifice your own arrogance and pride for relationships, you're not gonna feel deep down inside, subconsciously, you're not gonna feel that you deserve somebody to do that for you because you're not taking the effort and the time to do that for the other person. So why should you be with anybody who does that for you? So the first step is you. The first step is you doing that, no matter how irritating your partner's being, no matter how angry you are, no matter how much you do not want to do whatever it is that they're asking you to do. Now, I'm not saying that you should be walked all over, stamped all over, or abused. What I'm saying is to know how to stand on your own 2 feet in a relationship, know how to stand your ground, know how to speak up on your needs and wants, and be okay with that, and knowing that you have a right to your own needs and wants. From those experiences, something that I learned is we have a right to our needs and wants. Everybody does. So if you're one of those type of empathic people who are always giving somebody else their needs and wants and you're not getting it in return, that means you're not setting those healthy boundaries, as in give and receive in equal portions. I love this mantra for the heart chakra is I give and receive in equal portions. If you're over giving, it means that you're trying to overcompensate for something. If you're overtaking, you're trying to fill a void. So love is always give and take. It's not give, give, give. It's not take, take, take. You got to do your part. You got to, it doesn't always have to be 100% equal to what they're doing, but it has to be energetically equal, if that makes sense, as in some kind of sacrifice that you need to make that they're making for you, and vice versa. Love isn't selfish, and love is patient. And if you want somebody to be patient for you, you have to learn how to be patient with other people as well. Because I know I've done some few readings where I've told people that Ifa has told them not to leave, and I believe this is why. I believe it's that sometimes it's a lesson. I'm not saying that Ifa is saying that's necessarily your soulmate when you don't not to leave. Sometimes it's something that you need to do first. Sometimes it's a lesson that you need to learn. This is something that I've learned from studying like psychology, narcissistic personality order, and other mental disorders and stuff like that, is when you ask somebody, what did you learn from that relationship? And the response is pointing blame at them, that means they didn't learn the lesson at all. You know you learned a lesson when somebody asks you, what did you learn from that relationship? And you point all your fingers at yourself. I didn't do this. I should have done this. I should have changed this. Next time I'll make sure I do this. That's how you know you learned your lesson from that relationship. If you can't say any of that and you're constantly blaming your partner, you're just going to be in the same cycle over and over and over and over again, and dating the same demon and with a different face and a different body over and over again. until you figure out how to make those sacrifices in relationships, how to stay and not run away every time things get hard. And also, the most important is to hold your partner 100% accountable for to hear what you're saying to them, and and respecting your boundaries and what you know that you want for yourself and what you don't want for yourself. Like, you need to stand that ground. And something I've experienced a lot in my life, because I grew up from a very abusive household, that when you grow up in a household like that, constantly with an emotionally distant parent, or an abusive parent, or a neglecting parent, or whatever is, or being constantly gaslit your whole entire life, or not your relationships, it's going to make you really hard to communicate in relationships. So sometimes a lot of people just won't say anything at all. And you have to be okay with having needs and wants, and you have to be okay with setting those boundaries to say, hey, I do not like this, and I need more of this. And there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you're too needy, yeah, we should probably revisit that and find out, what's going on. But to be honest, there's a lot of people who can be too needy to one person, and you don't seem too needy to the next. Because I was with somebody who thought I was way too needy, and I'm like, I've never been told that. And now, like, I'm with somebody, my spouse doesn't feel like I'm too needy whatsoever. So, I mean, it just depends on who you're with. So don't let one person telling you things like that make you just feel like you're not deserving of love. So something I learned for finally finding the love of my life is, there's been multiple times where I went through breakups where I would feel like I don't deserve to be loved, or I'm too hard to love. Like, having that delusion that you're too hard to love is no bueno. Now, if you are definitely very toxic, then you should take ownership of that. If you are just a mean, controlling, abusive person, cheating person, then yeah, you probably should not be in a relationship at all. You should probably talk to somebody and work on that, and learn to be alone before you could ever be with anybody. Because nobody deserves to get all the shit end of the stick because you haven't done yourself work. You're not doing the work for yourself mentally and emotionally and spiritually and stuff. So there's definitely a difference there. A person who's just insecure because they just did the wrong people, or somebody who's just insecure because they know deep down that they are a toxic person. They don't deserve any more until they actually take the time to work on themselves so they feel more deserving. And that's something definitely we need to work on, is if you feel like you're not deserving of love, then why do you feel that way? And don't just tell me it's about your looks. I want to hear some more things. Like, if it's because you're inconsistent, or because you pull away emotionally, or because you habitually cheat, then you got to take accountability for that. You got to know the things that you're not good at, and don't just play victim and be like, oh, nobody loves me. But you ain't loving yourself, And if you can't love yourself, you don't have any love to offer anybody else. And we got to heal from that. We got to find out why we're trying to fill those voids with very bad habits. I had a bad habit of acting like an avoidant, like emotionally pulling away because I like to be chased and I like to feel needed and stuff. I don't do it anymore, but before I healed, I was habitually doing that. So because there was some kind of void that needed to be filled due to feeling abandoned, or feeling neglected, or feeling abused from my mother, so I would act out like that in relationships. And if that's the case, if you are an avoidant and emotionally pulled away, or constantly sabotage your relationships, then you got to work on that. You got to know where that's coming from, and find some kind of forgiveness for that parent that has caused you that trauma. And really realizing how you're making other people feel. Like when I was dealing with somebody emotionally pulling from me, that it feels like emotional torture. It does not feel good. So like, we got to take accountability on the pain that we are putting on other people. And sometimes the thing about avoidance is we tend to be very, like, mentally dismissive of it happening. As long as we don't pay attention to it, as long as we hold them 100% accountable, blah, 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 the pain that we're causing doesn't exist. It's like, it does exist, and we need to be really mindful of how we're treating other people. And constantly pushing and pulling somebody emotionally is mental abuse. It's emotional abuse. It is a form of abuse. And if you are doing this and then we just kind of just like zone out and try to act mindless about it, like, oh, as long as you don't focus on it, it's not happening. As long as you just like, oh, it's just their fault, they don't want to be with me, blah, blah, and you're not taking any accountability for participating, then you're going to subconsciously know that you do not deserve anything better than that. Therefore, you're going to be in a cycle over and over and over again doing the same thing, because you can't run from karma. You can't run away from the truth. You can lie to yourself and pretend like it's the other person's fault, but soulfully, you know it's your fault. We know it's us. If you're going through relationship issue after relationship issues after relationship issues, you know it's you. And no matter how much you try to point blame at everybody else, we know soulfully deep down inside that it is us. You can't lie to the universe. You know, no matter how much you try to avoid it, no matter how much you try to do things, drink it away, or go to work and avoid it away, or whatever it is. Like, we know when we're hurting people, and we know that when we're doing it, and then when you pretend that you're not doing it, that's why you're like stuck in a cycle over and over again. So we gotta stop blaming other people, because the common denominator is always us. The common denominator in everybody that you've ever dated, ever been with, ever had sex with, is always you at the end of the day. And that's something that we need to take accountability for, and stop pointing and blaming everybody else, because there's so many good people and loyal people out here. So if you're the type that's always being with abusive, unloyal, emotionally dismissive people, that's you. Like, you are subconsciously choosing these people, and until we take accountability for that, that cycle is not going to end. Because if you don't want to admit that it's you, that's just arrogance and pride. And as long as you keep pointing blame at everybody else, it's never going to change. So that goes to my next point that Spirit taught me. This is something my Eshu said to me. My Eshu said, love and arrogance cannot live in the same room. Which means if you want something resolved, if you're being arrogant, it's not going to get resolved. Because love and arrogance cannot live in the same room. Therefore, if somebody tells you something that you need to stop doing, and you're getting angry at that person for telling you that you need to stop doing it, you're not going to change. And if you do not respect your loved ones telling you the things that you're doing, then you're not offering love to them. Because we need to understand how we act and how we speak and what we're doing affects other people. And you can't just run away from reality and isolate. You have to go to the store where there's people you have to buy things from. You have to see your family. You have to raise your kids. You have to do things. You have to go to work. You have to associate with other human beings. And to act like you don't have to is really delusional. So, like, we need to take accountability that when you're in the space of other human beings, which you're going to be for the rest of your life, humans aren't going anywhere. If you constantly isolate and refuse to be around people, it is your pride and ego, because you don't want to understand other people. You don't want to understand other people's pain, and you don't want to take accountability for the energy that you carry that attracts toxic people into your life. Because there's plenty of people out there who have all kinds of people around them, and it's not a toxic situation. Like, for example, my situation, I have people around me all the time. I have omos. I have events. I do things with all kinds of people, and I'm not dealing with a lot of toxic people. I'm not saying everybody's perfect, but no one's treating me like crap. I know how to set boundaries where I keep those toxic people out, but I can still be around a lot of people. So if you can't be around people, like, you gotta take accountability, man. Like, you can't keep blaming the world and saying the world is evil and everyone's. You are the one choosing who you're associating with. You are the one with the energy. You are the one with the vibes. And birds of a feather flock together. If you hanging out with a bunch of toxic people that's treating you like cat crap, what does that tell me about you? If you're working at a job with horrible, mean people, and you refuse to look for another job, what does that say about you? If you're constantly getting into fights with people, what does that say about you? We gotta really take accountability for the way, who and what we are attracting into our life, and stop playing victim. So now when you're having a conversation with somebody, you're trying to fix a relationship, fix a problem, understand there's two. It's not just about you. That it's about the other person as well. And if you're dealing with a group of people, it's not just about you. It's about everybody in the group. And everybody has a right to their feelings. Everybody has a right to their needs and wants. And at the end of the day, because I practice Ifa, truth is truth. What is the truth? Is somebody lying and not telling the truth? Are you lying and are you living some kind of fake delusional reality of yourself? You know? And sometimes, you know, the truth hurts. But until we're really truthful about really what we want for ourselves, until we're really truthful about how we treat other people, until we're willing to be open and truthful about how other people are treating us, what we really do want from that person or not want, you know, nothing's going to get resolved. And we got to learn how to speak to people about that kind of stuff, you know, which means like we got to learn how to be spoken to about certain things, you know. Like sometimes there's sacrifices you gotta make. Like if you fall in love with somebody and you know damn straight you can't be working a job that consists of you being gone for work for months and weeks, but you want to have love in your life, but every single time you go through a breakup because of it, the question is, when you're in your deathbed, are you going to say, oh man, I wish I worked more? Or are you going to say, I wish I worked less and changed my job so I could actually have love in my life? You know, what sacrifices are you making, and what sacrifices are you refusing to make? A lot of times people see themselves in a cycle over and over and over again and wondering why they're in it. Because there's certain things that you need to sacrifice that you're not sacrificing. There's certain aspects of yourself that you need to get rid of, and you're not willing to do that. There's certain, maybe there's certain habits that you do that you're not really willing to get rid of so you can be happy. And it's not other people, it's you. So until we realize those things that we need to sacrifice, that stuff is not going to change. Sometimes you got to change your relationship. Sometimes you got to change your job. Sometimes you got to change where you live. Sometimes you got to just change your habits or how you speak to your partner. Are you being disrespectful with your mouth? You know? Nobody likes to be talked down to all the time. You know what I mean? Like I always talk to people and they wonder why they have messy relationships or why they keep arguing. And they be talking on mean to their partner. Like, why y'all talking crazy to your partner like that? Like, you're supposed to love your partner. Why are you talking all crazy to your partner? Like, there's just no, like, we are not children. You can speak to people in a regular tone. You don't need to be yelling and screaming and talking down to them and speak English, you know. And then they always blame that other partner. I'm like, well, what you think? How you think your partner's gonna respond if you're talking all type of crap at him and stuff? Like, what do you think? That's not everybody else's responsibility to deal with that. That's not everybody else's responsibility to be tough-skinned so you could just emotionally, mentally, and verbally abuse them. That's not okay. So, like, I made a lot of videos on working on your throat chakra. I made one on how to stop talking crazy to people, because that is one major thing people do that mess their relationships up. Stop talking crazy at your partner. If you talk normal. Something I realized when we do that is because that's out of fear. Fear of losing the person, fear of them abusing you, whatever it is, but you got to be mindful of that fear that's making you react that way. Correct it so you don't feel like you got to raise your voice all the time. You know, if you're just not heard, maybe it's time to leave. If the only time your partner hears you is when you scream, then maybe it's time to leave. You know, the voice is powerful, man. And we got to watch our words, the way things we say. We call it ofuwashe. You got to be careful what you say about yourself. Be careful what you say about other people, what you say to people, because it hurts. You know, and sometimes we say things and you can't take it back. No matter how much you apologize, it's too late. You already said it. I have literally been through breakups because somebody said the wrong thing. And once you say something, you can't take it back. It's too late. So you got to really watch how you talk to your partner, you know. Really watch what you're doing. Because like I said, love and arrogance cannot live in the same room. And you got to choose one or the other. You cannot have both. You're either going to choose your arrogance or you're going to choose love. But if you choose your arrogance, then own it. And don't sit here and cry and ask for love, because you made it pretty clear that's not what you want. You want to be arrogant instead. You choose love, then let go of that arrogance, boo. So my next video is going to be on questions about women that men commonly ask me. So guys, if you are curious, I'm wondering why your woman goes to the club if she's in a relationship with you, What is your woman doing when she disappears and she ain't texting you back or calling you back? Why do women date mean guys? If you want to know my answer on that, go ahead and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Mind of Row and hit that bell. If you resonating with this, if you have any questions about love and anything that I said, go ahead and shoot me a comment, a message, share, like, be nice to me. I do not like bullies. Uncle Uchasanan, namaste, odabo, peace.